The shuttle landed softly on the metal platform of the Galactic Institute of Xenosurvival. Students from dozens of different worlds stepped out, their bodies shaped by evolution, on planets scattered across the galaxy. Some had scales, some had wings, some floated on invisible fields of energy, and among them, walking quietly with a small bag over his shoulder, was a human named Kong Do-yeon. He was 23 years old. His hair was black and cut short. His eyes were dark and calm, like deep water that never moved. He was not tall. He was not muscular. He looked ordinary in every way. The alien students around him barely noticed he existed. The institute was famous across all 7 sectors of known space. It trained students to survive on the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. These planets were called death worlds. They had crushing gravity, poisonous air, extreme temperatures, and predators that could kill in seconds. Only the best students graduated. Many did not survive the training at all. Duhane found his room in the student housing block. It was small and simple. A bed, a desk, a window that looked out at 3 moons hanging in a purple sky. He sat on the bed and stared at those moons for a long time. He thought about home, not the Earth that aliens imagined when they heard the word human, not the clean cities and safe buildings that the Galactic Council had seen during their brief visit. No, Do-yeon thought about a different Earth, he thought. About a small village in the mountains of Gangwon Province, where winter lasted 6 months and the wind cut through clothing like a knife. He thought about his grandmother. She had raised him, alone after his parents died in a factory accident. She was a small woman with hands made rough by decades of hard work. She taught him how to fish in frozen rivers. She taught him how to find shelter when storms came without warning. She taught him how to stay calm when fear wanted to take control of his mind. When he was 9 years old, he got lost in the forest for 3 days. He survived by eating bark and drinking from streams. When he was 12, a wild boar attacked him on a mountain path. He fought it off with a wooden stick in his own screaming voice. When he was 15, an avalanche buried half his village. He dug his grandmother out of the snow with his bare hands. These memories lived inside him like stones in his stomach, heavy, always there. The next morning, all new students gathered in a massive room shaped like a bowl. Hundreds of seats rose up toward a domed ceiling that showed a view of distant stars. Do-yeon sat in the middle section, surrounded by aliens who whispered in languages he did not understand. A creature slithered to the center of the room. It had the body of a snake, but with arms and a face that seemed almost wise. Scales covered its skin, changing color as light touched them. This was Professor Tallis, the head of the survival program. "Welcome to the Institute," Professor Tallis said. Her voice filled the room without effort. "You are here because your governments believe you have potential. You are here because someone thinks you might survive what is coming. I am here to tell you that most of you are wrong." The room went silent. "This semester, you will learn to survive on Class 7 death worlds. These are planets where the environment itself wants to kill you. The air might be poison. The gravity might crush your bones. The creatures that live there have evolved to hunt and kill anything that moves." Professor Tallis let those words hang in the air. "By the end of this semester, perhaps 40% of you will pass. The rest will fail. Some of you will die. This is not a game. This is not a test you can study for the night before. This is survival. And survival does not care about your feelings." A large insect-like alien sitting next to Do-yeon leaned over. It had 6 eyes and mandibles that clicked when it spoke. Its name was Crix, from a warrior planet called Vela Prime. "Human," Crix whispered. "Why are you here? Your species is soft. You have no claws. No armor, no venom. How will you survive?" Do-yeon looked at the alien. His face showed nothing. "I will manage," he said quietly. Crix made a sound that might have been laughter. "Manage, little human. You will be dead in the first week. I have trained since birth for combat. My people are warriors." "What are your people? Farmers? Builders? You do not belong here." Do-yeon did not answer. He turned back to face Professor Tallis, who was explaining the schedule for the coming weeks. First, there would be classroom learning. Then, simulations. Then, at the end, a real test on a real death world. After the orientation, students moved to their first class. It was about identifying dangerous plants on hostile planets. The teacher showed images of flowers that could spray acid, trees that could grab and crush prey, and vines that injected eggs into living hosts. Most students took careful notes. Some looked sick. Do-yeon watched and listened. He found the information interesting, but not surprising. On Earth, there were plants that could kill too. His grandmother had taught him which mushrooms were safe and which would stop his heart. She had shown him how to avoid the thorns that carried infection and the berries that looked sweet but brought death. He thought about what Crix had said. Soft. No claws. No armor. The alien did not understand. Humans did not need armor because they had learned to make armor. They did not need claws because they had learned to make knives. They did not need venom because they had learned to make poison. And more than anything, humans had learned to survive. Not because they were strong, but because they refused to die. Do-yeon finished his notes and closed his book. Through the window, he could see the training grounds where older students practiced combat and survival skills. Soon, he would be out there too. He was not afraid. He had survived worse than anything this institute could offer. He just had not told anyone yet, and he was not sure he ever would. That night, alone in his small room, Do-yeon looked at the three moons again. He thought about his grandmother, buried now in the mountain soil of Gangwon Province. He thought about her last words to him before she died. "The mountain does not care if you are weak or strong," she had said. "It only cares if you give up. Never give up, Do-yeon. Never." He closed his eyes and slept without dreams. Tomorrow, his real education would begin. 3 weeks passed at the institute. Do-yeon attended every class. He listened to every lecture. He memorized information about toxic atmospheres, dangerous gravity levels, and predator behavior patterns. The alien students around him struggled with the material. Many failed the written tests. Some dropped out entirely. Do-yeon passed everything with perfect scores, but scores on paper meant nothing. Everyone knew that. The real test was the simulation chamber. The simulation chamber was a massive room that could create any environment. Holographic technology mixed with force fields and atmospheric controls to build perfect copies of Death World conditions. The simulations felt real. The pain felt real. Students had broken bones and suffered injuries that took weeks to heal. On the morning of the first simulation, 52 students gathered outside the chamber doors. Professor Tallis stood before them, her scales shifting from blue to silver in the artificial light. "Today you will enter Vexus 4, she announced. "It is a jungle world classified as a Class 7 death world. High temperature, high humidity, dense vegetation, and predators that have evolved specifically to hunt intelligent prey." She paused to let the words sink in. "Your task is simple. Reach the extraction beacon. It is 3 kilometers from your starting position. You have 6 hours. The simulation will hurt you if you make mistakes. It will not kill you, but it will feel like death." The chamber doors opened. A wave of hot, wet air rolled out. Inside, Do-yeon could see massive trees with bark that looked like broken glass. Strange sounds echoed from somewhere deep in the artificial jungle. "Begin," Professor Tallis said. The students rushed forward. Most ran in random directions, panicked and confused. Some formed groups based on their species. Others tried to use technology that the simulation had disabled. Do-yeon walked calmly into the jungle. He did not run. He did not panic. He stopped just inside the tree line and observed. The air smelled wrong. There was something chemical underneath the smell of plants and soil. He noticed that certain areas had no insects flying through them. He noticed that some trees had scratch marks at specific heights. He noticed that the water in a nearby stream flowed in 2 directions at once, which meant something large was moving upstream. He chose his path carefully and began walking. Within the first hour, screams filled the jungle. A Mirathi student, whose body was made of translucent crystal, had walked into a camouflaged predator. The creature killed her simulation avatar instantly. She would wake up in the medical bay, shaking and crying, the memory of teeth closing around her throat. Tagasa students, four-armed beings known for their strength, triggered a trap. Vines shot up from the ground and squeezed them until their simulated bodies stopped moving. They were out of the exercise. Doyen kept walking. He heard the sounds of failure all around him, but he did not stop to help. Not yet. He needed to understand this environment first. After 90 minutes, Crix caught up to him. The large insectoid was breathing heavily through spiracles on the sides of its body. 2 of its 6 legs were injured from a fall. Hume Crix gasped. "Wait, please wait." Doyen stopped. He looked at the alien who had mocked him on the first day. "You're hurt," he said. "I fell into a pit. There were things at the bottom. Biting things." Crix's mandibles clicked with pain. "I barely escaped. I have been following your trail for 30 minutes. How are you moving so icily through this place?" Dojan pointed at the trees around them. "Scratch marks tell you where predators climb. Avoid those trees. The insects avoid certain areas because those areas have dangerous plants. Walk where the insects fly. The streams are hunting grounds. Something big waits underwater. Never drink from streams." Crix stared at him with all 6 eyes wide. "How do you know these things?" "This world is alien to everyone. The details are different," Doyan said. "But the rules are the same. Predators mark their territory. Small creatures avoid danger. Water brings hunters and prey together." He started walking again. Crix followed, limping but determined. They reached a clearing. The sunlight broke through the canopy here, creating a circle of bright light surrounded by shadow. It looked peaceful. It looked safe. Doyan stopped at the edge. "Do not enter," he said. "Why?" "There's nothing there." "Exactly. No insects.
No birds.
No small animals. A clearing with nothing living in it is not a clearing. It is a trap." As if to prove his point, a creature burst from the ground in the center of the clearing. It was 6-legged and covered in scales that matched the soil perfectly. Its mouth opened to reveal rows of teeth designed to tear flesh from bone. The creature looked around, confused. Its prey had not entered the kill zone. Doyan grabbed a fallen branch from the ground. It was thick and heavy, with a broken end that formed a rough point. He tested its weight in his hands. "Human, what are you doing?" Crix whispered. "We should go around. Avoid it. It has seen us now. It will follow." "Better to end this here," the creature charged. Doyan did not run. He did not freeze. His body moved in ways that felt automatic, driven by memories written into his muscles over years of survival. He stepped to the side at the last moment, letting the creature's momentum carry it past him. Then he drove the branch into the soft flesh beneath, his jaw with all his strength. The holographic beast dissolved into pixels and light. Doyan dropped the branch. His hands were steady. His breathing was calm. Crix stared at him in silence for a long moment. "Where did you learn to do that?" The alien finally asked. "Your species has only been part of galactic civilization for 30 years. You have no warrior traditions. No predator combat training." Doyan thought about a mountain path and a wild boar with tusks like knives. He thought about his 12-year-old self, screaming and swinging a stick, refusing to become food. "I know we're important," he said. "We need to keep moving. The sound will attract other predators." They walked for 2 more hours. Along the way, they found other students who had survived but were lost and terrified. A quiet Gasa named Malo. A Velen named Sori, who had lost 3 of its limbs to a trap but was still moving on the remaining ones. Doyan led them all. He found water that was safe to drink by watching where animals drank. He found paths that avoided the worst dangers. He kept them calm when fear threatened to take over. When they reached the extraction beacon with 40 minutes remaining, they found that they were among only 8 students to complete the simulation. Professor Tallis was waiting for them on the other side of the chamber doors. Her scales had turned a color Doyan had never seen before. She looked at him with eyes that held new questions. Kang Doyan, she said, you will report to my office tomorrow morning. Then she turned and left without another word. Crix touched Doyin's shoulder with one of its many legs. You saved my life in there, the alien said. I was wrong about you, human. You are not soft. I do not know what you are. But you are not soft. Doyan nodded once and walked toward his room. He needed rest. More simulations would come. Harder ones. More dangerous ones. But he was not worried. He had survived worse. He would survive this too. That was what humans did. They survived. Professor Tallis lived in a chamber filled with specimens from dozens of different worlds. Glass containers lined every wall, holding preserved creatures, plants, and minerals. The air smelled like chemicals used to keep dead things from rotting. Light came from glowing panels in the ceiling that changed color slowly. Moving through shades of blue and green and purple, Dojan stood in the center of this strange room and waited. The professor circled him slowly, her snake-like body moving without sound. Her scales caught the changing light and reflected it in patterns that almost hurt to look at. Her eyes never left his face. Kang Doyan, she finally said. You are an unusual student. Try to do my best, he replied. Your best. She made a sound that might have been laughter. In 3 weeks, you have completed every simulation with the highest scores in the cohort. You have not failed a single exercise. You have not lost a single point. In my 200 years of teaching, I have never seen this. Doyan said nothing. He kept his face calm and empty, the way his grandmother had taught him to do when facing something dangerous. I have studied your records, Tallis continued. You come from a colony world. You have no military training, no formal survival education. You were a student of literature before you applied to this. Institute, literature. You wrote papers about poetry and ancient stories. Yes, and yet you move through death world simulations like you were born in them. Your reflexes are faster than any human I have measured. Your decision-making under pressure is beyond anything I can explain. You do not panic. You do not freeze. You do not make the mistakes that every other student makes. She stopped circling and faced him directly. Tell me how this is possible. Doyon considered his answer carefully. He could tell her the truth. He could explain about Earth, about the mountains, about the grandmother who raised him in a place where survival was never guaranteed. But something held him back. He was not sure she would believe him. He was not sure he wanted her to know. Maybe I am just lucky, he said. Tallis hissed softly. It was the first sign of frustration he had seen from her. Luck does not kill a Class 7 predator with a wooden branch. Luck does not navigate a hostile jungle without a single wrong step. Luck does not save for other students and lead them to safety when trained warriors failed. She moved closer. Her face was now centimeters from his. What is your homeworld really like, Kang Doyan? Earth, he said simply. Yes, Earth, the planet. That has not been officially classified by the Galactic Council. The planet whose survey data has been delayed for reasons no one will explain. The planet that your people seem strangely reluctant to discuss in detail. Doyan kept his expression neutral, but inside his heart beat a little faster. He had not expected her to dig this deep. I would not know about any of that, he said. I am just a student. Tallis studied him for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then she turned away and moved to a console built into one of the walls. You are dismissed for now, she said. But I will be watching you closely, Kang Doyan. Very closely. He left her chamber and walked back to the student area. His mind was working quickly, processing what had happened. The professor was suspicious. She was looking for answers. Eventually she might find them, but what would happen then? He was not sure. That evening, he sat in the common room with Crix and Malo. Other students moved around them, talking and eating and trying to forget the terrors of the simulations. 2 more humans had arrived at the Institute recently, transfers from another program. Their names were Park Yuna and Lee Taiwan. Yuna was small and quick, with sharp eyes that noticed everything. Taiwan was tall and quiet, with hands that looked like they had done hard work. They sat down at Doyan's table without asking permission. You are Kang Doyan, Yuna said. It was not a question. Yes. Everyone is talking about you. The human who beats every simulation. The human who fights predators with sticks. The human who does not seem afraid of anything. Doyon shrugged. People talk too much. Taiwan leaned forward. Where are you from? On Earth, I mean. Gangwon Province. Small village in the mountains. You would not know it. Something changed in Taiwan's eyes. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. I'm from Jela Province, he said. Fishing village on the coast. Typhoons every year. Lost my father to the sea when I was 8. Yuna nodded slowly. Bazan, industrial district. Grew up next to the shipyards. Fires and accidents were normal. You learn to be fast or you learn to be dead. Doyon looked at these two humans. He saw something in their faces that he recognized. They carried the same weight he did. They'd learned the same lessons. The aliens do not understand, Yuna said quietly. They think Earth is a safe place, a soft place, because they only saw the nice parts. They did not see the earthquakes, Taiwan added. The floods, the diseases, the animals that still kill hundreds of people every year. Crix clicked its mandibles in confusion. Your homeworld has natural disasters? Predators? But the Galactic Council said Earth was a garden world. Pleasant climate. Abundant resources. Doyon almost smiled. Almost. The council sent their survey team to a beach resort in the tropics, he said. They stayed for 2 weeks. They saw palm trees and warm water and humans smiling at them. They did not see the hurricanes that come every season. They did not see the sharks in that warm water. They did not see the insects carrying diseases that killed millions. They did not climb our mountains in winter, Taiwan said, or fish our oceans in storm season. They did not visit our cities during summer, Yuna added. When the heat kills the old and the weak, when the air itself becomes poison, Crix looked between the three humans with growing unease. Then what is your world really, if not a garden world? Doyon thought about the question. He'd thought about avalanches and boars and frozen rivers. He thought about his grandmother's funeral. It's held during a rainstorm so heavy that the ground turned to mud and the grave kept filling with water. I do not know what classification the council will give Earth, he said finally. But I know this. Every human who survives to adulthood has already passed a test harder than anything this institute can create. We just do not talk about it. We do not think about it. It is simply how we live. The table was quiet for a long moment. Then Malo, Vagasa, who had survived the jungle simulation, spoke for the first time. When I was young, my teachers told me about the hierarchy of species. They said some species were warriors, born to fight. Some were thinkers, born to create. Some were builders, born to make. And some were soft, born to be protected by the others. The aliens' forearms gestured at the three humans. They told me humans were soft, fragile, young to the galaxy, not yet evolved to face real danger. Malo paused. I am beginning to think my teachers were very, very wrong. Doyon picked up his drink and took a long sip. Your teachers believed what they saw, he said. They saw humans being polite, being careful, following rules. They thought this meant we were weak. He set the drink down. They did not understand that we were being polite because we knew what we could do if we were not. They did not understand that we followed rules because we had seen what happened when rules broke down. They did not understand that our caution came from experience, not fear. He stood up from the table. The next simulation is tomorrow. Classade conditions. I suggest everyone rest. He walked away, leaving the others in thoughtful silence. In her office, Professor Tallis had pulled up Earth's preliminary survey data on her screens. She read through the numbers and reports with growing disbelief. Tectonic instability, volcanic activity, extreme weather patterns, megafauna predators, microscopic parasites, radiation from the star, toxic plant life. The data was incomplete. But the pattern was clear. Earth was not a garden world. Earth was something else entirely. And Kong Doyan had grown up there, had survived there, had become whatever he was because of there. Celeste turned off her screens and sat in the darkness for a long time, thinking about what this might mean for everything she believed about humans. The transport ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel and entered orbit around a dark green world. Through the observation windows, the students could see massive storm systems swirling across the surface. Lightning flashed in chains that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Even from space, the planet looked angry. This was Keth-9, a Class 8 death world. And the final examination was about to begin. Professor Tallis stood at the front of the passenger compartment. Her scales had turned a deep red color that Do-yeon had learned to associate with serious matters. Around him, 48 students sat in silence, their fear visible in the way they held their bodies. "This is not a simulation," Tallis said. Her voice was flat and hard. "Keth-9 is a real death world. The dangers are real. The predators are real. Death is possible." She let those words settle into the room. "Your task is to survive for 72 hours and reach the pickup zone. It is located 15 kilometers north of your drop point. You will have basic supplies. No weapons. No communication devices. No technology beyond what primitive species might create." A Velen student raised a limb. "What about emergency beacons?" "You will each carry one beacon. If you activate it, a shuttle will retrieve you within 30 minutes. But if you use the beacon, you fail the examination. There is no second chance. You pass or you fail. You live or you die." And more silence. Some students were shaking. "You may withdraw now," Tallis continued. "No shame will be attached. Withdrawal is the wise choice for those who know their limits." 12 students stood up and walked to the back of the compartment. They would return to the institute on the transport ship. Do-yeon did not judge them. Knowing your limits was indeed wisdom. That left 36 students to face. KETH-9, the drop pods launched 30 minutes later. Do-yeon felt the familiar pressure of rapid descent, the heat of atmospheric entry, the jolt of impact with the ground. Then the pod opened, and the air of Keth-9 rushed in. It smelled like metal and rot. The humidity was so high that breathing felt like drowning. The sky above was green with chemical clouds that blocked most sunlight. Everything was shadow and dim light and the constant sound of things. Moving in the vegetation around him, Do-yeon checked his supplies: a water container, a small medical kit, a fire-starting tool, a knife that was little more than sharpened metal, emergency beacon. That was all. He started walking north. The first day was about observation. He learned how Keth-9 worked. The rain was acidic but not immediately dangerous. It stung the skin and left red marks, but it would not kill quickly. The plants were mostly passive, though some had thorns coated with toxins. The ground was unstable in places, hiding sinkholes filled with sharp rocks, and there were predators. He heard them in the distance. Roaring, hunting, killing. By nightfall, emergency beacons had activated across the forest. Shuttles descended to rescue students who had given up or been injured. Do-yeon counted 7 lights in the sky before darkness became total. He found shelter in a hollow beneath a fallen tree. The wood was harder than stone and smelled like copper. He did not sleep. He listened. On the second day, he found Yuna and Taiwan. They were crouched beside a stream, arguing about whether the water was safe to drink. Both looked tired and frightened, though they were trying to hide it. When they saw Do-yeon approach, relief flooded their faces. "You survived," Yuna said. "So did you." "Why did you?" Taiwan pointed at the stream. "We cannot figure out if this is safe. In the simulation, streams were hunting grounds. But we need water." Do-yeon knelt beside the stream and studied it. The water was cloudy, but flowed steadily. No animals drank here. No insects flew above the surface. The rocks along the edge were clean of any growth. "Not safe," he said. "See how nothing grows on the rocks? The water kills everything it touches. We need to find rain collectors instead. Large leaves that cup water. The rain is slightly acidic, but will not kill us." They moved on together. Along the way, they found Crix, whose exoskeleton was cracked in several places from a bad fall. They found Malo, who had lost one of his 4 arms to a trap, but was still moving on pure determination. They found 2 other students, a Mirthi named Gel, and a small furry being named Toko, whose species Do-yeon did not recognize. 7 survivors. Do-yeon led them north, On the second night, the real test came. They had found a cave that seemed safe. The entrance was narrow enough to defend, and the interior was dry. They made a small fire with the tools they had, and ate the emergency rations that were left. Then Toko, who had been watching the cave entrance, made a sound of pure terror. Something is coming. Doyan moved to the entrance and looked out into the darkness. At first, he saw nothing. Then his eyes adjusted, and his blood went cold. A Cathari stalker was moving through the forest toward them. He had studied these creatures in class. 12 meters long, 6 legs, armored hide that could stop bullets, infrared vision that could see body heat through walls, and intelligence. The stalker did not just hunt. It planned. It waited. It enjoyed the fear of its prey. "We have to run," Yuna whispered. "No," Doyan said. "Running triggers its chase instinct. It is faster than us. It will catch us in open ground." "Then what do we do?" Crix asked. The alien was trembling so hard that its legs clicked against the stone floor, Doyan thought. His mind moved through possibilities, discarding options that would not work. The cave was defensible, but the stalker could dig. They could not fight it directly. They could not outrun it, but maybe they did not have to do either. "Everyone," he said calmly, "I need you to do exactly what I say. Do not move. Do not speak. Do not even breathe loudly. I am going to go outside." "What?" Taiwan grabbed his arm. "That is suicide." "No, it is a distraction. The stalker hunts by body heat and movement. If I can draw it away from the cave, you can escape to the north while it chases me." "You will die," Yuna said. "Maybe, maybe not." He gently removed Taiwan's hand. "But if I stay here with all of you, we all die. This way, some of us survive." "That is good math." Before anyone could argue further, he slipped out of the cave entrance. The night air was cold and wet. The stalker was closer now, perhaps 50 meters away. Its 6 eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, reflecting light from moons hidden behind clouds. It had not seen him yet. It was still following the heat signature of the group inside the cave. Doyan picked up a rock and threw it away from the cave. The sound drew the stalker's attention. Its massive head turned toward the noise. Then Doyan started running, not away from the cave, perpendicular to it, drawing a line that the stalker would have to cross to reach him. Giving the others time to escape in the opposite direction, the stalker roared and charged. Doyan ran faster than he had ever run before. The acidic rain started falling, burning his skin, blurring his vision. He could hear the creature behind him, crashing through vegetation. Getting closer with every second, he reached a cliff edge and stopped. Below was a river, wide and black and impossible to judge. He did not know if the fall would kill him. He did not know if the water was safe. The stalker burst from the trees behind him. It slowed, sensing that its prey was trapped. It wanted to enjoy this moment. It wanted to taste fear before it tasted flesh. Doyan turned to face it. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. Every instinct screamed at him to panic, to freeze, to give up, but he remembered his grandmother's voice. The mountain does not care if you are weak or strong. It only cares if you give up. He did not give up. He jumped. The fall lasted forever and no time at all. He hit the water hard enough to drive the air from his lungs. The current grabbed him immediately, pulling him downstream, tumbling him through darkness. He fought. He struggled. He refused to drown. Eventually, the river spat him out on a muddy bank. He lay there gasping, bleeding from dozens of cuts. Shivering from cold and shock, but alive, behind him in the distance, he heard the stalker roaring in frustration. It had lost its prey. It would not follow into the water. Cathari stalkers could not swim. Doyan laughed. It hurt his broken ribs, but he laughed anyway. Then he stood up and started walking north again. He had promises to keep, students to find, an examination to pass. He was not dead yet, and until he was dead, he would keep moving. The pickup zone was a flat clearing on top of a small hill. A beacon pulsed red light into the green sky. marking the spot where survivors would be collected when the 72 hours ended. When Do-yeon finally reached it, limping and bleeding and exhausted beyond words, he found the others already waiting. Yuna saw him first. She ran across the clearing and threw her arms around him, then pulled back immediately when he winced in pain. "You are alive," she said. There were tears on her face. "We thought the stalker killed you. We heard it roaring. We thought you were dead." "Not yet," Do-yeon said. "How many made it?" Taiwan walked over, supporting Crixie, whose legs were barely functional anymore. Behind them, Malo and Gel sat on the ground, too tired to stand. Toko was unconscious, wrapped in an emergency blanket, breathing but badly hurt. "7 of us," Taiwan said. "One other group made it too. 3 students. They're on the other side of the hill. They do not look good. 10 survivors out of 36. Less than a third of the students who had attempted the examination." Do-yeon sat down heavily on a rock. Every part of his body hurt. The river had broken 2 of his ribs. The acidic rain had burned his skin in patterns that would leave scars. He had not slept in nearly 60 hours. But he was alive. They were all alive. The transport ship descended an hour later, exactly on schedule. Medical teams rushed out to collect the injured students. Do-yeon refused a stretcher and walked onto the ship on his own 2 feet. It was a small act of pride, but he needed it. Professor Tallis was waiting in the medical bay. She looked different somehow. Older, maybe, or just tired. Her scales had lost their usual brightness, and she moved with less confidence than Do-yeon remembered. "Kong Do-yeon," she said, "stay behind. I need to speak with you." The other students were taken to treatment rooms. Do-yeon remained, sitting on a medical bed while a robotic arm cleaned. His wounds and applied healing compounds, Tallis activated a holographic display. It showed a planet, blue oceans, green and brown countenance, white clouds swirling over everything Earth. "The preliminary survey has been completed," Tallis said. "Your homeworld has been officially classified by the Galactic Council." Do-yeon watched the image rotate slowly. He had not seen Earth from space before. It looked beautiful, peaceful, deceptive, Tallis continued. "The highest classification ever given to a planet with intelligent life." She turned to face him directly. "Do you understand what that means? Class 12 means your world should not have produced intelligent life at all. The conditions are too extreme. The dangers are too constant. Every model, every theory, every prediction says that sapient species cannot evolve in such environments. And yet here I am," Do-yeon said quietly. "Yes, here you are." Tallis pulled up more data on the display. Extreme gravity variance between regions. Tectonic instability that reshapes continents. Supervolcanoes that have nearly destroyed all life multiple times. Extreme weather events including hypercanes, tsunamis, and temperature shifts that can kill in hours. Pandemic-level pathogens that mutate constantly. Megafauna predators. Microscopic parasites. Toxic plants. Radiation from your star. Atmospheric oxygen that causes fires and accelerates decay.
Oh.
She paused. And then there are the humans themselves. Your own species is perhaps the most dangerous element on your world. Your history includes constant warfare, resource competition, and destruction on scales that other species cannot imagine. You evolved not just to survive your environment, but to survive each other. Do-yeon thought about his grandmother. She had survived a war when she was young. She had survived famines and droughts and political upheavals. She had survived things she never talked about, things that lived behind her eyes when she stared at nothing. "We do what we must," he said simply. Tallis shook her head slowly. "You have been swimming through our death world simulations like they were warm baths. Because to you, they are nothing. You grew up on a world that makes Class 8 planets look like vacation resorts." She moved closer. "You could have told us. You could have explained what Earth was really like. Why did you not?" Do-yeon considered the question. He had asked himself the same thing many times. "Would you have believed me?" He finally said, "Your council looked at Earth and saw gardens and beaches. They saw humans smiling and being polite. They saw what we wanted them to see. The the friendly version. The safe version. Why hide the truth? Because we have learned that showing our true nature makes others afraid, and afraid people do dangerous things. He looked at the image of Earth rotating in the air. My grandmother used to say that a good neighbor keeps their weapons hidden and their smile visible. It is better to be underestimated than to be feared. Tallis was silent for a long moment. The survey data will change everything, she finally said. When the other species learn what Earth really is, they will see humans differently. Some will respect you. Some will fear you. Some will want to study you like specimens, I know. Does that not concern you? Doyon smiled. It was the first real smile he had shown since arriving at the Institute. No, he said, because it does not change who we are. We were surviving before the galaxy found us. We will keep surviving after. That is what humans do. We adapt. We endure. We refuse to die. He stood up from the medical bed. His wounds were healing already, accelerated by alien technology that seemed like magic. I have a suggestion for next semester. Tallis tilted her head. What suggestion? Add Earth to the curriculum. As a reference point for what species can survive if they are stubborn enough. He walked toward the door. It might give your other students hope. He left her standing there, staring at the holographic image of his homeworld. Kong Do-yan graduated at the top of his class. The first human to complete the Xena survival program with a perfect score. The first student in 200 years to pass every examination without using an emergency beacon. He was offered positions on 3 different exploration teams. He was invited to speak at conferences across the galaxy. He was studied by scientists who wanted to understand how humans had evolved such remarkable survival instincts. He refused most of these offers. He was not interested in fame or study. He had other plans. 1 year after graduation, he returned to Earth. Not to the cities or the colonies or the places where aliens were welcomed with ceremonies and cameras. He went back to Gangwon Province. Back to the mountains where he had grown up. Back to a small village that still did not have reliable electricity or running water. He climbed to the cemetery on the hillside above the village. The path was steep and muddy from recent rain. The wind was cold, carrying the smell of pine trees and distant snow. His grandmother's grave was simple, a stone marker with her name and dates. No decorations. No fancy words. She would not have wanted those things. Do-yon knelt in the mud and placed a single flower on the grave. It was a flower that did not exist on Earth. Something he had brought from a world where the sun was orange and the sky was purple. His grandmother had always loved strange and beautiful things. I survived Helmione, he said softly. Just like you taught me. The wind blew harder. The cold bit at his exposed skin. Somewhere in the mountains, an animal howled at the gray sky. Do-yon smiled. It felt like home. He stayed at the grave until the sun set. Then, he walked back down the mountain, back to the village, back to the life that had made him who he was. The galaxy now knew what humans really were. They knew about Earth, the Class 12 death world, that had produced a species of survivors. They knew that humans were not soft, not fragile, not primitive. But the knowing changed nothing. Humans would keep doing what they had always done. They would face impossible odds. They would endure unthinkable hardships. They would adapt to any environment and overcome any obstacle. Not because they were special, not because they were chosen, but because they did not know how to give up. And in the end, that was enough. It had always been enough.